Hello, good morning, and thank you for keeping faith with us here on Channel 1 Television. We're broadcasting live from our studios here at number 5 Owula Hansen Lane, Tesano in Accra. My name is Nanatufo Boateng, and you are welcome to our live coverage of the vetting of ministerial nominees. The Appointments Committee is seated. Originally, they were scheduled to take the vetting of the Minister Designate for Defense. However, due to some unknown reasons, there's been a change in the schedule, and so the committee is moving on to begin the debate of different designates, which of course once we join the feed we will find out. So let's take you over to Parliament, the Appointments Committee, and go through that vetting process.
Chairman, I think it will be fair for us to correct a certain impression we've created about the Honorable Dr. Omane Boamah. The clerk claims that he made a phone call requesting him to be here at 9. Madam, what's the phrase? Madam Joyce Bawa-Muktari has just informed us that indeed the letter communicating today's vetting indicated 11 a.m. The clerk has also confirmed that indeed the letter was 11 a.m. So I don't see why the same clerk should say that the letter was 11 and told the nominee to get here at 9. That would be unfair. So it is not correct that he's late. I think to be fair to him, the inconsistency is coming from our secretariat. So he's not late. I'm sure he's waiting to come at 11. That notwithstanding, I think Honorable Agyekum is here, so we'll take him.
Honorable members, in matters of this nature, I believe in patience. Patience is the key. We should hasten slowly. Honorable members, I must place on the floor that today, Honorable Amabua was to be taken at 9, but for a stated reason, he was taken out of 10. So there should be a rearrangement in order to take the Defense Minister Designate at 9. But if the communication did not get to the Defense Minister Designate, we cannot blame. So in matters of this nature, patience is the key, and we should continue to be patient. Honorable member,
Chairman, can we have
Honorable Clerk, may you proceed to administer the oath. Honorable nominee, just give us 5 minutes.
All cameras to off. All cameras to off.
All right. Well, we're not too sure what's happening at the appointment committee. Early on, the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, did communicate to the House that despite sending a letter of invitation to the Minister Designate for Defense in the person of Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, communicating a scheduled time of 9 a.m., the Designate had failed to show up as at that time. However, he did make a U-turn after having some communication with Joyce Bawa Mokhtari when clearance was given, of course, regarding the time communicated to the nominee, which time is said to have been 11 a.m. Indeed, the minority leader has also cross-checked with the clerk to the committee, and the communicated time to the minister designate is indeed 11 a.m. And so we saw and heard him there making that correction, which has to do with the earlier impression, which suggested that the Minister for Defense, Minister for Defense designate, Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, had not responded to the letter from the committee and had subsequently been late. That erroneous impression we heard the minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin correct. Earlier on, he had also told us that due to the alleged or supposed lateness of the minister nominee, there was going to be a rearrangement to take the vetting of the Honorable Emmanuel Kwadwo Agyekum, who is a member of parliament. And then, of course, he has been appointed or nominated Minister of State in charge of special initiatives. This raises a lot of eyebrows, a lot of interest, because we're not too certain what the mandate of the minister will be as a Minister of State in charge of special initiatives. We're not too sure what projects, what policies will be captured under the Special Initiatives Ministry. And so a lot of keen eyes waiting for this particular vetting, the vetting of the Honorable Emmanuel Kwadwo Agyekum as Minister of State in charge of special initiatives. Also, this will be the first vetting of a functional minister or a minister in charge of a specific function. We've seen vetting of minister nominees, sector minister nominees, that's ministers of state in charge of sectors. And then, of course, we've seen some vetting of ministers of state in charge of regions. This will be the first vetting of a minister of state in charge of a specific function. Okay, and so that would be the function of special initiatives. And like I said earlier, we're not too certain what the mandate or the remit of this particular ministry will be. Mind you, in the first administration of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government, there was a ministry or a minister of state in charge of special initiatives who happened to be in the person of Madam Mavis Hawa Kumsen. And of course, we saw policies such as the One Village, One Dam, One Constituency, $1 million under that the procurement of the ambulances and all was under the Special Initiatives Ministry, which was a ministry of state, but a functionary one, not necessarily a sector-specific ministry. That ministry was collapsed, however, under the second administration of Nana Akufo-Addo, and so this will be the 2000 to 2004. The first administration was between 2016 or 2017, if you like, to 2000, when we went into that general elections, and then, of course, he won again and began his second administration from 2021, I beg your pardon, to 2024. And then, of course, we've gone into another election. John Dramani Mahama and the NDC have come out victorious and have taken over the realms or the helms of affairs. Now, they have reduced the number of ministries. His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama, has reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23. He promised to nominate 60 ministers within 14 days of his presidency. So far, we've seen and have indeed heard names of 42, with 18 more remaining. These 18, the suspicion largely is that will cover some deputy ministers to specific ministries. But let's zero into the vetting of today. I just sought to bring in that history so that we know that this ministry is not new. It existed under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's first administration, the Ministry for Special Initiatives. It's come back under John Dramani Mahama, Chapter 2. The second administration of John Mahama, and we've seen the creation of a Ministry of State in charge of special initiatives. We hopefully will get a proper understanding of the mandate of this ministry and its minister when the vetting of the minister designate begins, and that will be Emmanuel Kwadwo Agyekum. He is the member of parliament, I believe, for Nkranza South, member of parliament for Nkranza South. He has been nominated Minister of State Designate in charge of special initiatives. It will be quite interesting to find out what the mandate of this ministry will be. But yesterday, we saw the vetting of the Minister Designate for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Emmanuel Kofi-Boa. Quite an interesting one, an extensive one, if you ask me. It began somewhere after 9 a.m. and went all the way till about 2 p.m. thereof, almost 2 p.m. thereof. And of course, owing to the ministry that he's been assigned to or he's been nominated to serve at, a lot of questions came up covering mining in the country, the combat against illegal mining, commonly or popularly referred to as galamsey, and then of course land administration, the land tenure system of this country, the issue of landguardism, and of course what has been described within the NDC circles as the state capture of public lands. All these came up during the vetting of the Honorable Emmanuel Kwadwo, and he gave his own vision or plan towards addressing some of these issues. There was also the vetting of some regional minister nominees. We saw that of the Northeast region, Ibrahim Tia. We saw that of the Ashanti region, Dr. Frank Amuakohene, a young man who has served previously as the General Secretary, not General Secretary, as the Regional Secretary for the NDC in the Ashanti region. And so he served as Ashanti Regional Secretary for the NDC. Now he's been nominated to serve as the Ashanti Regional Minister. And it is expected that upon approval, he takes over the reins from Simon Osei Mensah of the NPP. There was also the vetting of the Upper East Regional Minister Designate, Akamugri Atanga Donatus, and quite interesting revelation that he appears to be the longest standing or the longest serving member of the National Executive Committee of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, having been a party executive since he was about 27 or 28 years old. Today, the committee is sitting, and it is expected that 5 minister nominees will appear before the committee as per the schedule communicated or published by the committee. Dr. Edward Kofi Omane Boamah, Minister Designate for the Ministry of Defense, is expected to be the first to be vetted, and per what has been announced by the minority leader, it looks like there was some miscommunication regarding the time for the vetting to begin. And so while the minority leader had earlier suggested that the committee had communicated 9 a.m. To the minister designate, the clerk to the committee, and of course, Madam Joyce Bawa Mokhtari have clarified that the letter sent to the minister designate or the nominee actually says 11 a.m. and not 9 a.m. And so in that clarification has been made. Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, of course, will lead this communication, having been appointed as a special aide to His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama. So I'll quickly run you through the nominees to be vetted today, and then we can take a break and wait for the committee to reconvene, and then we can join the feed. Like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Edward Kofi Omane Boamah, Minister Designate for Defense, is scheduled to appear before the committee first. And then the Minister of State in charge of Special Initiatives, who is the Member of Parliament for Nkranza South, Emmanuel Agyekum, follows. Then you have the Minister Designate for the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources coming in third. Then we go into that of the minister nominees for the various regions. Today, 2 female regional minister nominees are scheduled to appear before the committee, and they are Linda Obenewa Akwele Ocloo, who is representing the Greater Accra region, and then you have Charity Gardner for the Ahafo region. These individuals are scheduled to appear before the committee today, and it is important that they do show up, and then we can indeed all witnessed that proceedings. We are not too sure whether the vetting of the defense minister designate, Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, may actually be a public hearing due to the sensitivity or the security nature of the ministry he's been assigned to. We are waiting to see whatever decision the committee will come out with, having gone into conclave, having excused themselves from the press and, of course, the public present at the appointments committee as it is. But we are waiting to see what's the agenda for the emergency meeting, or if urgent meeting, if I can put it that way, which is being held now between leadership and members of the appointments committee is, and whether or not it has to do with the sensitivity or the sensitive nature of the defense ministry, and whether or not they should go ahead and do a public hearing of the vetting of the minister nominee. We'll wait to see. But while at it, we've also received communication of further appointments. These appointments this time go to the office of the vice president. The office of the vice president. We'll do a brief announcement of the persons who have been appointed to the office of the vice president. This letter, which of course is a communication from the presidency's communications. Recall that the information ministry has been scrapped, and then there's a minister of state designate in charge of government communications. So obviously the publication or communication of government agenda will be done from the presidency, and that is why this letter is headed presidency communications and has the emblem of the presidency there, and it's dated Tuesday, January 28, 2025, titled Appointments to the Office of the Vice President. And I read, President John Dramani Mahama has approved the appointment of the following individuals to the office of the Vice President. They are expected to bring their wealth of experience and expertise to their respective roles and contribute significantly to the resetting Ghana agenda to build the Ghana we want. I'll run by you the names of these persons. First on the list is Alex Percival Segbefia, who has been appointed Chief of Staff to the Vice President. Alex Percival Segbefia, Chief of Staff to the Vice President. Mrs. Alberta Graham, Head of Administration. Professor Theresa Enin, Presidential Staffer and Special Aide to the Vice President. Ms. Daniela Mavis Matthias, Secretary to the Vice President. Dr. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, Policy Advisor, Political. And so he'll be a policy advisor in charge of political issues. And then you have Professor Sharif Mohammed Khalid. I beg your pardon, Professor Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, Policy Advisor, Economic. Dr. Hamza Zakaria, Policy Advisor, Economic. Ms. Mansa Amwa Ewua, Policy Advisor, Finance. Dr. Miriam Rahinatu Idrisu, Policy Advisor, Social Sector. And then there's a final one, Mamiama Pratt, as Press Secretary to the Vice President. And it's signed off by the acting spokesperson to the President, Felix Kwakye Ofosu. So these are appointments that have been made to the office of the Vice President and approved by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic. Alex Segbefia, Chief of Staff. Mrs. Alberta Graham, Head of Administration. Professor Theresa Enin, Presidential Staffer and Special Aide to the Vice President. Miss Daniela Mavis Matthias, Secretary to the Vice President. And then there's the former National Chairman of the NDC, Dr. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, Policy Advisor, Political. Professor Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, Policy Advisor, Economic. Dr. Hamza Zakaria, Policy Advisor, Economic. Ms. Mansa Amwa Ewua, Policy Advisor, Finance. And then you have Dr. Miriam Rahinatu Idrisu, Policy Advisor, Social Sector. Then there's a Press Secretary by name Mame Ama Pratt. So these are the appointments made to the office of the Vice President as approved by the President, John Dramani Mahama. We're waiting for the Appointments Committee to reconvene. Once they do, we'll go back to the committee and bring you live proceedings as covering the vetting of the minister nominees announced by the President. Quite important to note that Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, who until recently or still is actually in charge of elections and IT at the National Democratic Congress. He is the Director of Elections and IT for the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and he has been nominated to the Defense Ministry. He was scheduled to appear first before the committee. It appears as though there's been some miscommunication, and so there's been a mess up regarding the time he is expected to appear before the committee. The minority leader had earlier announced that they had received or they had communicated to the minister nominee 9 a.m. However, it appears that the communique as sent to the minister nominee had 11 a.m. and this has been confirmed by the special aide to the President, Joyce Bawah-Mokhtari, and the clerk to the Appointments Committee, and of course rehashed or made public by the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo Markin. And so we're waiting on the committee to reconvene, and then we'll know whether or not a decision has been taken on whether there's going to be a rearrangement as to who appears first or second. Mind you, the Minister of State Designate in charge of special initiatives was ready, was in the house, had attended upon the invitation of the committee, was just about to be invited to take the oath when leadership decided to take that break to go into conclave and to meet and have a discussion. Which discussion, we are not sure what the agenda is. Okay, there's also the suspicion of whether, due to the sensitive nature of the Defense Ministry, the vetting will be public or in camera. But like I said, we're waiting to find out what decision the committee will make. All right. The host of the City Breakfast Show and Point of View here on Channel 1 Television, Bernard Avle, is here with me. Good morning, Bernard.
Good morning, Nana. Sorry for keeping you talking. You've done very well running commentary.
Ours is to talk.
You've done very well, yes.
If I were in the palace somewhere, I would have been a linguist.
No, you're a big man. Yeah.
Anyway, we're seeing something we've not witnessed throughout this particular appointment committee sittings. Dr. Omane Boamah, appointed or nominated for the Defense Ministry, was scheduled to appear first today. Yeah. Minority leader appears and announces that a 9 a.m. time was communicated to the minister nominee. However, special aide to the President, Joyce Bawah-Mokhtari, communicated to the minority leader that indeed the communique or communication they received had 11 a.m. on it. Same was corroborated by the clerk to the Appointments Committee. Yeah. And this has left some vacuum. Yeah. The minister designates in charge of special initiatives was already in the house
at 9.
Yes, and was ready to take the seat. However, leadership has gone into conclave. We're not sure what they are doing.
We were given 9 yesterday. Ni sent us the coverage of proceedings request for the Dr. Omane Boamah for 9 a.m. Emmanuel Agyekum, MP, 11 a.m. Adjei Kenneth Gilbert was given 1 p.m. Linda Ocloo 3 p.m. and Charity Gardner 5 p.m. So that's the plan we're working with. So we crossed over earlier. I think it's more administrative than anything else. And I think the point you make about the defense as well, whether it's supposed to be in camera or not, is an issue. Yeah. I think these are public hearings for a reason. Yeah. I witnessed the vetting partly of Dominic Nitzel. I think there could be parts that could be done off camera, but you cannot say the whole vetting should be done off camera. Yeah. So I'm not sure that's what the delay is about. The other point is that if there's a miscommunication in time, don't forget the way the minority goes about this is that they get subject matter experts to come at specific times. Right. So they've been given 11, and the man is there at 9, it could mean that the subject matter expert was not given 9. So they may have to clarify those, because what you see from the vetting is they bring either the former minister or a specific person with knowledge in that industry to do the vetting, which I think is really nice. So yesterday, Kofi Boah was vetted for like maybe a few questions by Abuja,
the former lands minister.
Exactly. So I think that's a good way to go about it, so we get a bit more rigor. So we probably just have to wait. All right. The positions being vetted today, I think the defense may be the longest. Because it's the highest consequence. The other ministry that I see, the housing, the gentleman is not known outside the circles of those who know our politics. So it's not like that national, but people know him in Ashanti region. He was a former defense minister as well. So, and then of course the third one is a functional ministry, not a minister in a sector. So I don't expect that to take that long. Regional ministers is going to take almost an hour and a half. All right. So I think this is a big one. This is a big one. So we'll see how it goes. And Omane Boamah has been very visible in the media for a long time. So there'll be a lot of people who want to question him. And because he's not an MP, don't expect him to get a free pass. Because usually the way they do these things, you know, when the colleague MPs come, they're a bit more lenient.
They tend to shield their own.
And I think Omane Boamah will, but he will be prepared. He's been deputy minister before, he's been minister before, and he's been served at the highest level in the NDC. So I expect a very interesting, it will be interesting to see what he thinks about the portfolio. What he thinks about the portfolio, because I remember when Nana Kwadwo mentioned Dominic Nitiwo, people were like, why Nitiwo? But during the vetting, you could see that because of his work in the committee in Parliament, he was quite familiar with some of the issues. So Omane Boamah is a very interesting pick for defense minister, and I personally look forward to issues around the claims sometimes people make about politicization of our security agencies, and they are equipping them, making sure they are well tooled, making sure that, and for example, people question around whether our military should be involved in a Galamsey fight. I expect a lot of those kinds of things. Ghana's standing in terms of peacekeeping in the Committee of Nations and those types of things. So I think it will be an interesting vetting if it does eventually happen today.
And then of course the president's resolve to end chieftaincy conflicts and all that. It will be interesting to see what some of his own ideas
because you're right, some of the conflicts they have to send military. If you go to Boko, for example, there are detachments of soldiers in those places. Indeed, a lot of the conflicts have required us to use reinforcements of military, whether he thinks that's the way to go as well.
And the costing of keeping these military men stationed in these conflict zones and all that. Recall in the last administration or the last parliament, there were issues regarding how much was being spent on fighting these internal conflicts.
One thing I want to hear though is the use of the military for not necessarily physical defense, but for infrastructure, because they have some regiments in the military that are very efficient in building road construction. And I think if you look at where our infrastructure gap is, I hope the nominee in meeting the military hierarchy will come up with a plan to complement our efforts in buildings, because they have the 64, I think they call them, or was it 48?
48 Engineers
48
Regiment.
Engineers Regiment, who are very good at building very quickly at very lower cost, whether it's roads or houses or hospitals. To think that for a hospital, a military hospital took that long to build, I'm sure if you ask them if they could have done an alternative. So I hope we have some innovative ideas around that. And then issues around the presence at the AU Summit. We are talking about funding our own defense as a continent. So Ghana is probably the second largest contributor of troops for peacekeeping in West Africa after Nigeria. We have the Sahel group that have left. There's a conflict in DRC. I'm sure the committee would like to know from him. And by the way, our soldiers do very well when they go out. They are highly respected. And some soldiers see it also as an honor, whether it's Lebanon or wherever. So I think that's another interesting angle that will come out, whether we are still going to harness our soldiers in helping to make West Africa safer, I think that's a big issue that will come up as well.
There's also been an appointment and an envoy to the Sahelian.
Exactly.
He will not appear before this committee. So it will be interesting to know what Omane Boamah's views are on that.
Very good point. It's, by the way, the security sector has many things. You know, under the MPP, national security was a ministry.
Yeah.
NDC never had that. And they've gone back to it's just being a secretariat headed by a policeman.
Yeah.
So there will be questions around him, Interior Ministry, National Security Coordinator, National Security Advisor. All right, so you have the Prosper Bani is advising the president, and the DCOP Al Hassan, I think his name is, who's the head of the national security setup. How will the relation between him and, say, the Interior Ministry be, and the Defense Ministry? From on paper, we know that Interior Ministry coordinates the security internally, and then the Defense Ministry protects our borders. All right. How are they going to work together? What kind of collaboration would they have? Will the absence of National Security Ministry make things easier or not? So we hope to hear a lot more on those, and I don't think they should do those things in camera. There may be some sensitive matters that have to be discussed. Another issue is the military's involvement in the civilian areas. Brutality.
Exactly.
At Shaiman happened. Parts of Wa happened. There have been a lot of these things that have happened where soldiers have gone to unleash revenge. And I think we started seeing this after the Major Mahama killing. The soldiers were very unhappy with that. So one of the things the minister will have to do is to also enhance military-civilian relationships in a way that opens up the place for us to know what they do and for them to also appreciate where we are coming from in a democracy. There's also a question about the over-militarization of the country. So now you have some officials of state protected by soldiers instead of just police. So you see, for example, the EC, there's a detachment of soldiers, and people are even complaining that why are soldiers holding the bags of public officials? I think all those things will come up in the sketch. I'll say, last thing I'll say is that I think a lot of the military people will be watching this vetting very closely. Because I was privileged to be at the Republic Day lecture at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Accra. And that was the first time I heard soldiers actually talk about our democracy. Francis Poku was the speaker, Kwesi Enin and a few others were on the panel, and I was the moderator, and it was so enlightening. They are very concerned about our country, about politicization, about systems working. They don't like to talk because they say by their training they're not supposed to talk. But that day, a lot of them had a lot to say. So I really hope the nominee, in recognizing the importance of the military and our defense, not only speaks to us but also speaks to them about the future of this democracy and why they have a role to play in keeping our democracy safe and why they have to trust the process to work. So I feel like he will be, there's a lot of people will be listening to this vetting, and if we have a good nominee who does a great job, it keeps the ship of state steady. So we really hope to hear what Omane Boamah will say.
We've seen a few of the service chiefs coming into the committee sitting now. But do you foresee events of the night of the inauguration of the 8th Parliament coming up at this vetting?
Absolutely.
The military invasion in Parliament.
I actually expected in the vetting of Dominic Nitiwu for his second term for that to come up a bit more because that was the period it happened. So I'm not too sure what this nominee can say about that except to express an opinion. But I think that will be asked within the general context of, do the military have a role when, for example, MPs are fighting? They are not, their job is not to necessarily maintain civil order unless there's a state of emergency. So generally, the police are in charge of all of this. In fact, this morning on the City Breakfast Show, we're discussing the general lawlessness in the country, where you're having supporters of parties mass up at places. People are very easy. Oh, let's call the military. People don't really understand how the military are trained. The military are trained to defend you from external aggression. So the way they sense danger is not the way you and I sense danger. Number two, the police are trained to deal with civilians. So the police know how to talk to you. They know how to contain you. The military's training is to defend the country at the peril of their lives. So when people say, oh, let's bring the soldiers in, it's not a very easy thing to say. And I hope there will be a very thorough discussion around, for example, Galamsey and the role of the military and whether that increased use of soldiers has not even diminished their stance in the eyes of ordinary Ghanaians. Because when you start exposing soldiers to corrupt bureaucrats in the mining space, and they see that wrong is not punished, they may be compromised.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than giving a man a gun and bribing him on top. It's a very terrible thing to see.
Yeah.
So I hope to hear some very clear ideas around when soldiers should be deployed and when they should not.
They should not.
And what protocols should be gone through before they are. And what uses should they have. People say they see that Bema come doing nothing. It's good to have soldiers there as a deterrent to evil.
Yeah.
So the fact that they don't do anything is not, they are there to protect the country.
Yeah.
But must they be used on citizens in an internal issue? No. I think that point is what I expect this nominee to be very clear on. True. That they have their role and we can use them in ways that to enhance the republic, but not to intimidate and not to bully our way through wrong policies. So those are some of the things I'm hoping to hear from both sides during the vetting of Omane Boamah.
A number of other issues are also likely to come up, including issues of violence, election-related violence, and of course committees that were set up, committees of inquiry and all that came up. Talk about Ayawaso West Wagon, Techima North, and then there's even the issue with Kaka.
Yes, please.
And all. It will be interesting to know when it comes up at the hearing.
Very important, and I think it's important you raise it in that context because because in the previous government there was National Security Ministry.
Exactly.
There was Defense Ministry. And there was Interior Ministry. We're not really, for example, when you listen to Ayawaso West Wagon report, I think the Interior Ministry was very central, but a lot of it was on national security because the two other ministries were not sure how to treat national security.
Yes.
So I think the architecture in that arrangement probably led to some of the confusion. Number two, politics has become so competitive that when people are in power, they use everything at their disposal to push their end.
Yes.
Which is unfortunately some of the things we saw in Ayawaso West Wagon and in Techima North. The NDC has been very unhappy with the Techima North in particular.
Yeah.
So I am very sure if there hasn't been a proper probe, this minister will be open to having a fair probe around that matter.
Which the president has given an indication to already.
And I think though that because he is coming in as the Minister for Defense, the service chiefs will be hoping that he will not overexpose them to public ridicule so that he will understand how they work and why they will do some of the things they did under command. Okay, so if whatever they did was a licensed or sanctioned operation versus if it was a rogue operation. So the thing is, once you are in the system as a minister or in government, the context you get is different. And some of the noise you make from opposition. Around, let's do this, let's do that, you will see that a lot of this will change. We saw that even with the Lands Minister's vetting. People were saying, let's do state of emergency. Yesterday, he wasn't very clear on state of emergency. He was very diffident. I think that's the nature of the way our politics has become. Where when you are outside, you say a lot, and when you get in, you sort of try to change that. I don't think that's the best.
It's like reality dawns on you when
that's not, no, your opposition politics must be based on reality.
Exactly.
Don't overpromise and come and now tell us that when in opposition you didn't know. That's irresponsible politics. If you can be bold enough to make a promise, otherwise people will not take your word seriously. Right? So for me, public officers must be held to the highest standard. So don't just get up and say, we'll do this, we'll check this, when you don't know what it takes to do it. All right? So it's a call for responsible politics, which is why I think the veteran must be very strict on the issues of what you've said in the past. People shouldn't see it as equalization. If you appear before me,
rather accountability.
Yes, if you appear before me to be vetted, and you've said all kinds of things in opposition, it is only fair that we ask you to justify.
Exactly.
It's not witch hunting. It is to ensure that people in opposition play responsible. And I think the MPP as well will have to learn from that. That when you're in opposition, you have to balance between what is advantageous for you politically and what is necessary for the state to advance. That balance is what a lot of our politicians don't seem to get, which is why we keep seeing this shifting of goalposts every time they leave opposition to government. That's not the best, and we don't want that.
We've seen Dominic Nitiwu there. Suggest to you that he'll be doing a lot more of the questioning today. But then also we've seen a bit of a change on the minority side. Recall that they had this strategy where during the vetting of the education minister, they had the former minister, they more or less ceded all their questions to him. But now, even though they bring the committee-specific experts, they still create room for other members on their side to ask questions.
I think the chairman is also not allowing too much of that. You remember yesterday, during the vetting of the nominee for lands, one of the friends of the committee from the NPP side who had been brought in as a subject matter expert wanted to yield his slot to Samuel Jinapo, and the chairman didn't agree to that because maybe he felt like the former minister was overriding. The only person who has no limit on the questions they ask is the ranking. So leadership. So what the minority have done cleverly is to push a lot more questions to leadership. So for example, yesterday Jerry Ameshaibu, who's the second deputy whip, did a lot of questioning on the regional ministers. And I think he did a really good job.
He was fantastic
yesterday.
So
it's also because I think the leadership is now feeling each other out. And they realize that, look, this guy is actually very good with questioning. So I expect to see a lot more from him rather. Because sometimes when these former ministers come, they come in with more like, I want to advise you kind of posture. It's like, I've been Minister for Education for 4 years. You are coming in. I've been doing technology and STEM. I hope you are not coming to spoil STEM. Then say, please, I will not spoil STEM. That's it. Instead of saying, do you understand? So, apart from, to be fair, Abu Jinapo was more, was a bit harder. But prior to him, a lot of the former sector ministers, when they come, they were more looking for assurances than Jinapo, who said, no, you guys said this, and now you've come into the position. Are you going to do this? So, I don't know what posture Dominique will use. Because I haven't heard Omane Boamah say too much about the military. I stand to be corrected. Unlike the NDC who said a lot about lands and mining. So maybe Samuel Jinapo's approach was different. But I sincerely think that the rigor we need should be enforced. And I like the work of people like Jerry Ameshaibu. I also think Anodon Pre, with all his faults, has brought a bit more. It's a different kind. You know, Apenyuma King, because he's a lawyer, sort of comes in a lot of times on many technical points. But I think the chief whip for the minority is basically just going straight.
Doing the actual questioning.
So he's not doing law.
He's raising questions on the actual issues in the sector.
And I think he's been a useful addition to what we've seen from last week. You know, you may not like his style, but he goes straight. All right? Apenyuma King is back. So I don't know the chemistry between him and Anodon Pre. And I keep talking about strategy. Because when you watch NDC in opposition, they had a strategy.
Clearly.
There was a division of labor and there was a clear plan as to what they were doing. I still don't know what the NPP is doing in terms of strategy. What I see is that subject matter experts are coming in, but I see a lot of the former ministers are rather coming in. I mean, Brian Champon comes in to Erikopoku. It's more, it's not, you know, I don't feel they are drilling down to force the people to think about the complexities they will face. You know, maybe they meet them behind the scenes. I'm not sure. But in front of the public, we want to see a bit more rigor so that we can be sure that this is not some window dressing. All right. This is the only chance we get to see this type of thing. And it's part of our democracy. So to build confidence in the Institute of Parliament, they must not only do the vetting, but they must be seen to be doing it well. Which is what we are hoping to see in the current vetting going on.
Dominic is seated. Recently, he was up with the issue regarding the presidential jet.
It will come up.
No, it will definitely come up. But I mean, under him, he did part Boko, some attempts were made, a lot of issues. But like we established earlier, because there was the National Security Ministry, there was the Ministry for the Interior,
and then there was defense.
Exactly. Would you expect to see someone like Brian Champon sit here because he's once served as the National Security
I won't be surprised if he's there as well, because as you said, he was in that ministry. And you know, the Dominic Nitiwo's presence there will also be to sort of try and defend his record. Because don't forget, the people in NDC, when they are questioning the nominee, some of the questions they ask are to suggest the failures of the previous government. So they'll sort of cook the question for you and say, oh, under MPP, there was traffic lights. Students were going up and down. What are you coming to do? You get it? So usually the NPP people come in to say, hey, what you're saying is not true. So he's there to do that dual job of saying, look, you cannot caricature our record as a government in the defense sector. All right. So I find it going to be an interest. And you know, there's always what we call presidential jet politics. I've covered this country's politics for almost 20 years. And Nana, every 4 years, we do presidential jet politics. There are two angles to it. It's too expensive. President is traveling too much. That's angle one. Angle two, is it safe? The jet is too old.
Yeah.
Do we need to buy a new one? It's always been, and there are various iterations of it. So if you actually follow our election and our political cycle, there's a presidential jet scandal almost every 8 years.
8 years.
Which has to do either with something they went to buy too expensive, or they claim the president is bathing in the air. So, look, when Muhammad took over and wasn't using the jet, they told you have to use the jet because we've refurbished it.
Yeah.
If he had used his brother's jet for three more weeks, you have been in trouble.
Yeah.
So he went to Kenya, he took the presidential jet, end of story. But you wait and see if there's some small problem in the jet and they put it down, they take another flight, it will come up again. Because it's an expensive thing and it's emotive. Because most Ghanaians will never travel by air.
Yeah.
So when they are told that the government is mismanaging their affairs, a presidential jet is a very nice emblem to use. I think we should move away from that.
Yeah.
The safety of our presidents critical, and once we are sure that they are safe and the jet can be safe, let them use it. Let's take politics out of some things. All right? Let's not politicize. The man is traveling on our behalf. He went to Boku the first week. He's in Kenya.
Yeah.
Let him just do his work, and let's not make everything about politics. It doesn't help to grow the country, honestly.
Well, we're still waiting for the committee to reconvene, the leadership to come in, but we'll see a few notable persons coming in. The likes of Peter Lanchene Tobu. Yes, he has just shown up. So clearly he will have, hopefully he will have some security-related questions for the defense minister designate.
So you notice that a lot of these people were in the security. There's this committee of defense and security, or they call it interior and intelligence. There's a certain committee. Yeah. So you have, for example, James Agalga, Peter Lanchene Tobu. So they usually use either lawyers who have some knowledge in the defense space or former security practitioners.
Right.
Peter Lanchene Tobu used to work with an IGP.
Yeah.
He was his office sort of chief of staff. And he's been quite articulate on security matters. So I expect him to pass a fair few questions. I heard him join the vetting of Muntaka. Indeed, we interviewed him. Yeah. And he thought Muntaka did very well. I think he was one of the names that were being looked at for one of those roles.
Okay.
But I think regional balance can also catch up with you sometimes when somebody is picked from a particular place and it seems as if the person is too close to you, they may change it. So, for example, if you look at the MP for Busa South, in the person of Clement Apak, he was being touted for deputy education. Now, he's from a different region from Haruna Idrisu. He's from the Upper East region. Haruna is from the Northern region. But it appears with the appointment of Haruna Idrisu, the calculations for deputy may have changed a bit. I think Peter Lanchene Tobu as well, being a police person, you would have expected that maybe he would be featured in the interior conversation. Yeah. It's still a possibility, right? As is the defense, but the way you look at the appointments, the president has named 42. He has 18 left. Yeah. There are 23 sector ministers and 3 functional. We don't think the 3 functional will get deputies. No. So of the 23, 5 of them will not get deputies. So the question is, which of the 23 will get a deputy? And if they get a deputy, what rubric will he use? Will he use regional balance to say, I can't have 2 people from the same region in the same ministry? So, for example, if your attorney general is from Upper East, where will your deputy come from? If your labor minister is from Upper West, where will your deputy come from? I think some of those considerations change the calculation a lot. So, a person who may have been touted for a particular security defense ministry position may have to be overlooked because of where the substantive is from. You see where I'm coming from? So I think the 18 deputy ministerial list will be very... In fact, yesterday when I was talking to Ayariga, he sought to manage expectations for the government. He said, right now, minister and deputy minister is nothing because the power is with the authorities. And he gave an example. Lands Ministry has Forestry Commission, Lands Commission, Border, Boundary Commission,
Minerals
Commission, and all these very, very powerful authorities. So his point was, those are the appointments people should look at, and not just minister and deputy minister. Because a lot of people are getting disappointed, and a lot of people will be. So I sensed in the interview with Ayariga that he was trying to lower expectations. Because a lot of the MPs are very eager to get deputy minister, and he's saying, look, some deputies don't even get any work to do. You know, apart from the PEC. So I think there will be some surprises in the deputies.
Well, which is quite smart on his part. But when you spoke to him, what sense did you get on how he plans to manage affairs in the House? You know, this overwhelming majority that they have.
You know, in his first speech, he said that even though they have an overwhelming majority, he will still work with the minority. So that was very good to hear. And he also said something that suggests that his strategy is very clear. You know, during the show, people kept texting and saying, oh, Ayariga, don't allow Alex Apenyo-Makin to be dribbling you. Apenyo-Makin is disruptive. So there was a lot of text messages about Apenyo-Makin almost outwitting him. But Ayariga's point was that the minority have their say, the majority have their way.
Yeah.
And he says, even though his opposite number is engaged in the theatrics, at the end of the day, as majority leader, his job is to get government business done.
Simple.
And Sammy, I said, why do I keep calling Sammy? Nana?
It's probably because of the Sakura.
If you look at I think the minority has been cooperative in terms of the speed with which the people have been vetted.
Yeah, yeah.
And because usually you would need at least a week. And the speed with, I mean, we have at least 6, actually we have almost 12 ministers who are already working.
Yes, yes. The
Because
first batch
of 6.
6 were
education,
roads, finance,
attorney
general, energy.
Yes.
And then there was one more.
One extra one.
One extra one. So
all of them went through first. And then the next batch of 5.
5. That's trade and agribusiness, tourism, and then there was local government.
Yes.
And then there was
gender was supposed to have been.
Yes, but
and then there was fisheries as well.
Fisheries.
Yes. And then in the first batch was also agric.
Yes.
So they've done. So what I'm saying, Ayariga's point is that I won't always win the argument, but at the end of the day, I'll get my result.
Exactly.
And he's also saying that when you're in opposition, your people want to see you as you are fighting.
Exactly.
So he's like, let me grant Apenyo-Makin
revolutionary leader.
Let me let Apenyo do what he will do, or let me get Apenyo to say what he will say.
Yes.
By the end of the day, I'll do what I will do.
Yes.
So, but you know the way our politics works. Foot soldiers, they watch football like a football match. They watch politics.
They want to
like
see the action.
They are watching an interview and they're like, so that's what they are doing. So
they want to see you as always receiving.
So they think
and not throwing.
Ayariga is very calm. So they're like, why are you letting Apenyo-Makin push you around? But meanwhile, he's gotten the minority to agree to do a lot of things. So I think we, the people who view politics and consume politics, we need to grow up to raise the level of our politics, because so long as it's about who shouts the loudest or who gives us the best punchlines or best bars, somebody can give you some nice bars but it's not doing anything. We don't want politics. And I need to say something, Nana, because of TikTok. Somebody stands up on the floor of Parliament and he's not even asking a question to get an answer. He wants to show that he can speak nicely and trend.
Exactly.
So he will use some big words, and that's not substance.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I kind of like what he said, that look, for us, judge us by what we managed to achieve. Not how many arguments we win. He even said that when they were arguing about minority majority, it was the MPP government work that suffered, because then the minority were happy to do that. Okay, we are majority, we are minority. At the end of the day, some key bills of the government could not get passed.
True.
And as a leader, you are measured by that. So I don't expect Ayariga to be assertive in this vetting. I think he will speak to the chair. They will have some agreements with leadership, and Apenyo will do what he will do. But at the end of the day, they will vet the people and pass them.
Clearly.
That's what he will do. So he won't come and he may enter. And by the way, Roxin rather seems to have the appetite for that type of thing.
Exactly. Because, well, I don't know how much of a litigant he is, but he appears to engage the arguments, the back and forth. He appears to enjoy that.
And you know, he and Apenyo-Makin were mates for the bar.
Okay.
So they know each other very
well.
And that could also be part of why they have that. You know, if you know somebody very well, like Sky, I can banter with him and it will not lead to problem because we know each other.
Exactly.
So maybe, but Ayariga is Apenyo-Makin's senior. So, but Roxin and Apenyo are on the same level. So maybe that's why you see Roxin has been put there to do the legal rebuttals.
Yeah.
So you will see more Roxanne than Ayariga in the vettings.
Yeah, and it speaks more of the relationship between leadership. We saw that between Haruna Iddrisu, Chairman Sabonsu, even Apenyo himself, and Dr. Akasil Atto Forsen. Just like you've explained, it's not same between himself and Ayariga, but it might be between him and Roxanne.
That's an interesting point. You know, I think Haruna and Che showed exemplary leadership. I'll give you an example. There was a time where Parliament decided that they wanted to raise the issue of MPs being kicked out of Parliament. The two men appeared on many interviews together as Parliament. Okay, and I thought that was a very good sign. That even though we are opponents, there are certain things we come together to do. Even though Che, you can say, is Haruna's senior. Haruna and Che worked very well. So I don't expect Ayariga and Apenyo to have any problems if they both know the rules and they understand the relationship. Of course, Atto and Apenyo were closer. So you could see the camaraderie was much. Even when he was signing him out, you could feel some emotion there. Because they are two central regional MPs, both almost of the same age bracket, schooled both in the central region, have a lot in common. Ayariga is a bit different. So you will not see that level of. If you will see a lot of frantic back and forth, it will be more with the chief whips. The chief whips. Than with Ayariga and
because Anodonpe also appears to toe the same line. He also enjoys the back and forth.
And don't forget that all these people used to be student leaders. In fact, when I watch some of these things, it takes me back to the university. So, for example, I see Mutala and his interjections. When we were in the university, he was a member of the University Congress, of which I also was. And he was doing exactly the same thing. You know, he will come in, he will raise a point of order, he will read something, and then the chair will say you should keep quiet, he will stand up and defend himself. So some of them have taken that to that level. So it's almost a replay, just that their bigger stakes are play now. And it's not just student politics anymore, it's national politics. And I hope they have the national interest at heart as they do all the things they're doing.
A lot more similarities between Ayariga and Patrick Boamah.
Yes. I actually think Patrick Boamah is the silent hero of the minority. I say this for two reasons. Every time there is a confusion, he seems to be the old, what's the word they use? There's a word they use. Something in the room. It's like the mature.
Yeah. Oh, the phrase is not coming.
Yes. He's like he's the elder brother in the room. Patrick Boamah is very understated. Understated. That means that he knows a lot but doesn't say much. Number two, he has a lot of relationships across the aisle. So there's a lot of respect. So when people come to be vetted, even the minister from the NDC side, they have a good relationship with him. Number three, he used to be on the finance committee, and he's a lawyer, so a very critical committee. And he has this kufuor disposition. So there are times you can even see he speaks with his eyes without even talking. So you can notice that sometimes when there's confusion, the camera catches him, he'll wink at somebody that keep quiet, or let's meet outside. I think we need people like that in our parliament, because when the spectacle of shouting occurs, citizens don't like it. You know? And you are right. I actually think that if it wasn't because Patrick had a challenge in his constituency with the results, he probably would have been in leadership. I think the MPP, and this is again pure speculation, I think the MPP did not want to put an incumbent person in leadership. Let's assume he's going to court every week. Let's assume Sadiq decides to go to court. Well, a leader of parliament, because I think on the MPP side, Patrick is one of the best. I mean, look at the way he questioned the Ashanti regional nominee yesterday. And then he can also question you and advise you at the same time. You know, I don't know whether I grew up in a chief's palace, but he has the trappings of somebody who knows. And you know, we need more people like Patrick, because I always say that our parliament must not mimic the Europeans blindly. Oh, it's adversarial. When you go to court, you don't shout. When you go to court and the judge is seated, you talk, I talk. Someone in parliament is very raucous, and it's not the best way. And I always say, Nana, you are brought up in a chief's palace. When a chief summons two groups who are fighting, do you come and fight there?
No.
Do you raise your voice there?
Definitely not.
Won't the chief deliver justice?
He will.
So why do we shout at each other in parliament? So I think a lot of people like Patrick Boamah and co, who understand the language of the court, we need people like that too. Because for our democracy to really work for us, it must resemble who we are at the core. There's no point going to Britain to learn law at Westminster and come and you can't apply it to improve your life.
Exactly.
Because education is not just going to Westminster. Education is also being a chief's palace for 7 years. I mean, Otunfo was trained. He was sent to the Western region to be trained. Now, arguably, the training to know the language of the court is a tougher training than educational training. I always go to my hometown, and even the way to properly greet is still a problem.
Yeah, that's
okay?
true.
So let's not downplay our educational system. Why should somebody be a member of parliament who doesn't even know how to greet? Who doesn't understand his own tradition? If you understand tradition, there are so many things you're not going to do in the parliament that you are doing. I even want to propose that there should be proper chieftaincy training for people who are in executive position to understand the law. I mean, you are from it. You cannot. Do you see a chief sitting in town just drinking?
No, it's not done.
Why?
No, because the title placed on you, the position you hold, comes with some level of respect, and so you should not be seen behaving as the ordinary person.
So I'm not saying MPs are chiefs, but you have been chosen to represent the people, and you're representing all of us. Why will you go and be shouting and throwing kambu? And it's not right. You see, and it's because we have not distilled. You can learn somebody's principle, but you merge it with your values. So you don't go and just learn everything about Britain and come and apply it in Ghana. That's my education. You need to understand where you are coming from and find out which aspect of what the British are doing can help me. Which aspect will I reject to improve my society? This is what the Chinese do. This is what the Koreans do. But once you go to school and start wearing tie, you throw everything away and you cannot develop. So you spend 60% of your time arguing about procedure. The real substance of the issue is not discussed because you don't really know who you are to apply that knowledge. And so when we see people like Patrick Boamah and one or two Ayariga and co who come with a different angle, I think we should appreciate it. And to encourage more of our MPs to behave like that. This shouting, this hey, anything, it has its place. But Parliament is for serious national business. And we, the hungry citizens, want to see our leaders being sagacious. We want to see our leaders thinking. We don't see our leaders shouting, taking off their tie, and insulting each other. That's not what we want. Okay. So that's a piece of advice for them as they go about waiting for the almighty vetting.
Well, Bernard, while we're still waiting for that, some appointments have been made, this time to the office of the Vice President.
Okay.
So let's just take a quick look at that.
Wow.
Alex Percival Segbefia.
Alex Segbefia.
Yes, Chief of Staff to the Vice President.
Wow. Yes. Interesting.
There's Mrs. Alberta Graham, Head of Administration.
Okay.
Professor Theresa Enin, Presidential Staffer and Special Aide to the Vice President.
All right.
Ms. Daniela Mavis Matthias, Secretary to the Vice President.
Okay.
Dr. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo,
okay,
Policy Advisor, Political.
Okay.
Professor Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, Policy Advisor, Economic.
All right.
Dr. Hamza Zakaria, Policy Advisor, Economic. Ms. Mansa Amwewa. Yes, Amwewa. Okay, it's not hyphenated. So, Amwewa, Policy Advisor, Finance.
All right.
And then there's Dr. Miriam Rahina to Idrisu, Policy Advisor, Social Sector. Then they have a press secretary in the person of Mamiama Pratt.
So my first reaction is, this is the team that campaigned with her. About 6% of these people are her team that were with her in the campaign. Because I know Alex Segbefia was in the team. I know Sharif, is it Sharaf?
Sharif Mahmoud Khalid.
He was also on the team. I'm told Alberta Graham is like a close associate of the Vice President who's worked with her in other previous capacities. Right. Amma Pratt was working with Pan-African Television.
Okay.
I think that's Kwesi Pratt's daughter, if I'm not mistaken. Ofosampofu is a former chairman of the party.
Is she I think she's the one married to the running mate of Alan Chematin.
Yes, but she's also a media person.
Yes.
Ofosampofu is a political bigwig.
Former national chairman.
So it's a blend of the people she was working with in the campaign and some reinforcements.
Yeah.
I think Alex Segbefia was like, the people in the team I spoke to like Alex Segbefia's leadership style.
Right.
He's calm, he's very organized and also respectful and dignified. I think he mirrors, so just like Julius Debra sort of mirrors President Mahama.
Yeah.
Mahama is a people person.
Yeah.
who people can greet and talk to. Julius Ebra is the same. So I think they've also chosen a person who intellectually is up there, but also down to earth. Yeah. So I think it reflects very nicely. There are one or two of them I do not know personally. The other thing you can see is that the policy advisor sector tells you, so for example, she has 2 economic policy advisors, 1 finance policy advisor, but just 1 social sector policy advisor. Yeah. Suggesting to me that she probably has enough facility in the social sector and does not need too many advisors because of her training. But her main weakness may be the finance and economic side. Yeah. So they've had 3 strong people to beef up that side. Political advisor, for example, is big, so that's okay. So I feel like this team is more to support her and prop her up. So let me give you an example. If she goes into a meeting with the education minister, or she goes to meet the social sector, gender minister, education minister, health minister, she knows what to ask them because this is the life she lives. Yes. If she goes to meet the BOG, the finance ministry team, she will need a lot of work to be done by these 3 guys to be able to ask them the right questions. Yeah. Do you follow my logic? Yeah. So this team is to compensate for her shortcomings. That's how I see it. All right. Right. So, Amwewa, Hamza, and Sharif, 3 people from the finance side and economic side to support the vice president. It's an interesting blend. Again, the female-male mix. I would have been surprised if I didn't have enough women. So you have Alberta Graham is a woman, Teresa Inin is a woman, Daniela Matthias is a woman, that's 3. Mansa Amwewa 4, Marian. So this is the first list that has more women than men. Yeah. And I know she would have insisted on that. Yeah. So of the 10, the only men are Alessebefia, Ofoswampofo, Sharif and Hamza. So 4, 6. Yeah. I mean, sure if they found some women in that area, they would have kicked the men out. Yeah, no, so everything is looking like her. Yeah. You know, so she has 6 women in her team and 4 men in the team to support her work. We wish her well. I'm sure there will be a lot of time to discuss where she stands in all of this. Exactly. Because of the fact that President Mahama has just 4 years. So what really will she do? Yeah. There's already a National Education Conference coming. Is she going to chair it? Yeah. There's a National Economic Dialogue. So the Education Conference is middle of February. We're told Mahama himself will open that conference, but as to whether he will chair or she will. That's a good point. And then there's the economic one too they are doing possibly in March. Yes. All right. There's one people are saying is to do on Galamsey. So you notice that a lot of big meetings will be held, which will require the president to be present. Yeah. But I think the vice president, being sort of an academic with her background, may be the one. So the president may come and make a big statement and leave, and leave her there to continue. Right. You follow my logic? Yeah. So it's like the technocratic, same like Boamah type, a technocratic support to a president who has a lot of things to do. Exactly. So this team will be very busy. This very. They won't sleep. They'll have a lot of work to do. I'm telling you, because we are told the president consulted his vice quite closely. All right, because he needs somebody with some level of experience as a sounding board. Yeah. So these guys will have a lot of work on their hands to do. Interesting, because a lot of people were thinking Alexa Befia was going to get a ministerial nomination instead of this. A lot of people, actually you are right. I think that maybe that was being considered, but you know, when you look at the formula the man is using, we have come up with some formula. You should not be above 60. You should be an MP. Yes. Unless you are from a region that the NDC doesn't have a lot of MPs. So hence Omane Boamah. Yes. Gilbert, Kenneth, Adjei. And then a couple of others. So Kenneth is from Ashanti. Omane Boamah is from Pablo Eastern. Is from Eastern. They didn't have a lot of MPs from there. Yeah. And like I said before, you are from Volta. Volta has too many MPs. Yeah. So to go and appoint you, it's a bit like people like Neil and Van der Poy. Why will the president come and appoint Alessebefia or Neil and Van der Poy as a minister? Yeah. When people have won seats in parliament who also qualify. Yeah. It will be very tough. Yeah. You see, so there's a clear. So Alex was not going to get, and he was the health minister, and what do you call it? Mahama one. Yeah. Yeah. So what can you do? And Alessebefia is highly respected in the NDC. Yes. So if you don't make him foreign minister, what else can you give him? Yeah. Which will match his legal training And a lot of the people who work with these presidents, law is a strong advantage.
True.
Law is a strong advantage. So you are right that initially his name was in the conversation for minister, but I think when the man started dropping the cards, realized that so you know, even people were considering people like Joshua Alabi. His name came out for some ministerial role. He's now GCB board chair. So let me give you a prediction. A lot of the older guys will become board chairs. Because the GCB bank MD is 44 years old.
Yeah.
But his board chair is Joshua Alabi. So the GCB bank guy is technically a banker.
Yeah.
He's young, brilliant. But his board chair is an experienced boss.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the chemistry will work well. I think that's what he wants to do. So a lot of the former things will go on boards. We hope we don't see a repetition of Nanado 1, where board chairs were jostling for space with their CEOs.
Yeah.
Some wanted office space.
Office space, yeah.
We really hope. We really hope that doesn't. You know, we really hope that doesn't become them, because a lot of the CEOs are young, and then the board chairs will be old.
Yeah.
Which is what it's supposed to be.
Clearly. Yeah.
So, you know, so Alexander Fia is an interesting pick for chief of staff. The other thing we need to find out is, usually, again, from my knowledge, vice presidential staffers don't enjoy their time a lot because they are overshadowed by the presidency.
Yeah.
But that is usually because the people some people see the vice presidential team as the people to succeed the president.
Okay.
So a lot of times people run rings around them from Aliu Mahama time all through. It's been difficult for even Mahama himself under Mills. It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy.
If you notice, a lot of people Mahama appointed when he took over in 2012 were deputy ministers of ministries that were probably not listening to him. So the difference with this is that we don't know what Jenane's plan is.
Right.
Do you get it? So we are not sure how. So let me give you an example. If I'm a minister who is eyeing the presidency, do we know what the vice president wants to do? Whether she also wants
to be president or not?
How would that affect my work with them? All right. So those are some of the things we should look out for in our work to see whether there are any things going on there.
Interesting times ahead.
Yeah, very.
Ofosu, former national chairman.
Yeah. He's been a bit silent.
Yeah.
The only time I saw him was when Akosua was interviewing the what do you call it? When they were
those who made it into the inner perimeter.
Yes, when they were doing the handing over.
The inauguration,
you know, he lost the chairmanship bid, his return to General Mosquito. And I think Ofusu is part of NDC architecture that cannot be taken away. Former MP for Fantiakwa, then national organizer, even ran for Tema West, and then national chairman. Been there, done that, has a t-shirt. Very experienced politically. So I think it's a good pick. You need somebody to. So for example, if you want to organize your local politics and travel to go and deal with party people, how do you go about it? Who do you need to consult? How do you do it so it doesn't cause confusion?
Yeah.
All right. And how do you align your policies to the politics of the time?
Yeah.
He's a master at that. So hopefully he has the energy and the zest to drive that type of thing for him.
That there are those who argue that it appeared he had fallen out with the Mahama team, and so most people were not looking out for an appointment for him.
You know, we who are not politicians, we don't understand how politicians work. Politicians, they are very interesting people. 3 people will run for general secretary, 2 will lose. Next week they are talking to each other and they are laughing.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes with the media we assume that because somebody ran against somebody and they lost, and because this person supported that person, it means that they are fighting.
Automatically.
They will go and have a meeting the night and settle their scores, and you are not there.
You are not there.
So me, I don't trust politicians like that. They know what to do to each other. So I think the reason he lost, apart from the fact that General Mosquito is well oiled on the ground, was that they felt that the prosecution against him by the MPP weakened him.
Yeah. Okay.
And in opposition, you want a strong chairman.
Yeah.
And I think the NDC chose General Mosquito and Fifi Kwete because they wanted strong people to face the government.
Yes.
So, and let me tell you something. MPP will do the same. In opposition, they look for people who can stand up because the government will intimidate opposition.
Yeah.
So General Mosquito will not be intimidated. Fifi Kwete will not be intimidated. They like Chairman Ofosu-Ampofo.
Yeah.
But in opposition, no. They don't want. They want Mosquito to wear his batakali and come and do. So that's why. So I don't think he fell out. He's always been part of them. You know, that's how they do it. So they decide that they want this type of person to lead as an opposition. Because want power. And they want Fifi Kwete and General Mosquito to give them power. When they are in government, they choose a different kind of person.
You
they want
present
somebody who's
a certain front when you're in opposition, but when you're in power, it's a different.
So you watch MPP very carefully. You notice that some of the people who start running for positions will be people who say shit. And this year, they will come.
Already people have started advertising themselves.
That, you know, if you watch our policy for a long time, realize that a lot of things don't change. You know, so I'm interested in the Sharaf because Sharaf has been on City quite a bit. And you know, Sharaf is a young finance academic who's taken his chance with politics and done very well. He's from West Central. And I think it's a very interesting pick because he has some very interesting views about the economy. So I look forward to hearing some of the things you say and how that will support the big team. So for example, the National Economic Dialogue they are doing. Will the Vice President have a role? If she has a role, then it will mean that Sharaf, Hamza, and Mansa will be the key drafters of that. That policy. All right. When the president was in opposition, he was saying that Akufo-Addo should chair the National Economic Team because of the crisis we're in. So I think this again my view. I think Mahama will not leave the economy. He will, because he knows that everything is on it. He will not cede it to somebody. So I don't see the same role Boamah played for Akufo-Addo in this vice president. I think Mahama will want to be part of the economic discussion. Because his point to Akufo-Addo in 2022 was that call a national forum, chair it like Senchi, because we are in crisis. And in a crisis, you don't listen. You listen, but you decide. So I am predicting that he will be at the National Economic Forum. He will sit in the meeting. He will take notes, and he will drive the process. Because he wants to be seen to be leading the economic recovery. Because this is only legacy to leave. You come to inherit an economy that's on its knees, and you have 4 years. You don't have time to be traveling around the country telling people to do it. You have to do it yourself. So I think that in this particular case, the vice president may not have such a big role in the economic recovery as it was in Boamah.
And it's clear the president's will or desire to be involved in every single aspect of governance. And you can tell from the type of responses you get from the vetting so far. Most of the minister nominees refer or revert to the party's manifesto and make reference to the president's policy direction.
If you like, don't do it. You know, when I started doing this work, when you interview anybody in politics, so you say, oh, hello, Kofi Mensah, MP for Kumasi, Minister for something. So thank you, Bernard. Before I answer the question, I want to greet His Excellency the
President.
You know, so it's like you have to put it in your answer. You know, it's, I don't know, it's the way we do things here. But you're right. I think that we should de-emphasize manifestos. I personally think we should, because you see, look at Akalamse. Look at the land issue. You see, something can be useful as a tool to win an election. But it may not be practical as a policy to change people's lives. Okay, so this idea that we say we'll do it in a manifesto and we've done it, I don't think that's the best way to go. I think the National Economic Dialogue is the right way to go. Let's get the full length of the fish and let's come up with a plan to solve it. Whatever you say in opposition, you're in opposition because you may not have had the full picture. A manifesto is a litany of promises. Manifesto is not a strategy. A manifesto is what I am promising to do. But how do I do it? And when do I do it? All right? It's very important. So they do that manifesto thing to score political points. But the real job is to know what the resources are and how to deploy them to get results in a short time.
All right, so still watching our live coverage of the ministerial veterans. We're waiting for the appointment committee to reconvene so we can take you back there to witness or observe proceedings. Dr. Edward Omane Boamah, Minister Designate for Defense, is scheduled to appear before the committee. There was some miscommunication regarding the time for him to appear and all that. But the leadership of the committee has gone into a conclave now. They're having discussions which we are not privy to and so cannot speak to. But we await them to resume the committee sitting. Then, of course, we'll pick hints from there as to what the earlier conversation was about. There are 5 minister nominees scheduled to appear before the committee today. Already it's 11:30 a.m. Sitting was scheduled to start at 9 a.m. And so some 2 hours, 30 minutes are gone. We'll wait to see how the committee will rearrange itself or program itself to carry out the 5 vetting sessions, or whether or not they are going to shift some to tomorrow, as we saw regarding the previous one.
We've already lost 2.5 hours. Based on the plan that they advertised, 9 o'clock to 5 p.m. It's 11:30. So I don't see how you're going to vet 3 ministers plus 2 regional ministers unless you're going to make it very short. There's something obviously going on that we don't know about, and we don't know if they will even do the vetting at all, because it's already 11. It's the latest they've started.
Exactly.
11:30 for something they started at 9. Nominee has been there since 9. So
yeah, and their guests are already seated.
But by the way, when you had come in first, was the guest already there? Omane was already there?
No, Omane Boamah was not there, but Agyekum was.
Oh, so they're coming to vet the one for special initiatives.
Yes, but you see, that's what Afenyo Makin announced, that they had communicated to Omane Boamah for him to appear at 9. However, it appears the mistake was on the letter sent to him. So Joyce Boamah and the clerk of the committee confirmed that indeed it's 11 a.m. that was communicated to Omane Boamah, and so he was not late.
So why didn't they start with Agyekum?
That's where we were all lost, because the chairman had actually invited Agyekum to take his seat. And then they decided to get up and go into whatever meeting it is. So we are not sure.
Maybe the subject matter expert for Agyekum was not ready.
Perhaps.
That's only my guess, because you are right. If the man was there at 9, why don't you vet him at 9?
Yeah.
And Ayikwe is there in Parliament too. He's also in the meeting.
Today, Charles is in the meeting for us. Ayikwe is in the chamber, because the House will be sitting. Parliament will be sitting.
So Charles is in the committee.
Yes.
So what's he reporting?
Charles Owusu-Kumi is there. He's here to bring us update, but I'm sure he's looking around trying to fish out some information regarding this particular meeting.
So the chiefs are all sitting there waiting?
Today, not so many chiefs, but because Omane Boamah, in my own thinking, is a party person, holds a party position, you will see more of the party people. I am guessing
not
this
an
lady, not an MP. I'm guessing this person in red is Joyce Boamah. Yes.
I suspect so.
Yes. My girl, I'm suspecting Joyce Boamah is there, and then a few other party folk will also be there.
So does it mean that we are going to do the Omane Boamah first?
Yes, because if you look to the right-hand side, our right, you see some service chiefs as well in the back.
So it looks like they will start with the defense minister.
Exactly.
Before they go to the next one.
Recall that earlier we saw Dominic Nitiwu seated, we saw Peter Lanchini Tobu and the likes. So it suggests to me they will do defense minister designate first. But like you mentioned, perhaps they are trying to fashion out which aspects of the vetting will be a public hearing and which ones will be in camera due to the sensitive nature of the ministry he's heading to.
All right, so probably take a breather, and when we come back, they will definitely get ready. Or definitely come back. I'm told it's Obo Bia, the former nominee. Actually, no, I'm told it's Joyce Boamah that's in red.
Yeah.
Joyce Boamah that's in red. So we'll see. Sometimes the people who come for the vetting give a hint of where they're going. But Joyce Boamah, as you know, is a special aide to the president and also a presidential advisor.
Exactly. Yeah.
So not sure if there's any direct role there of course, with...
Well, we also understand Kakre Samoa is present.
Kakre Samoa is the NDC Director of Communications.
Yeah.
And Obobi Opoku Dako is
also present.
Key member of the NDC. She ran for Wejak Bawe.
Yeah.
She hasn't been named in a role yet.
Not yet.
She is a former media personality.
But the communications minister designate, Sam George, is also present.
Now, I'm not surprised because Omane Boamah used to be the communication minister. I think a lot of Sam George's advocacy on the Committee on Communications was informed by some of the experience Omane Boamah would have passed on. And I'm quite sure that with Sam George named as substantive minister, he's had a lot of conversations with Omane Boamah.
Yeah.
Because Omane Boamah is like the key person in NDC. So it was Hanatete, Haruna Idrisu, and then Omane Boamah. So that in that chain, obviously Omane would have passed a lot on to Samuel George, who will also be sat there listening as well. So I really hope they make it fully public.
So that we can get
because
more
once you start making it seem like some people's vetting is special than other people, they also begin to govern like that. You know, so the military people, we should vet whoever is going to oversee our soldiers and our defense forces in the same way we vetted whoever is going to oversee our police. It must be equal before the law. Yeah. So I hope they have a full public
The new executive secretary of the NIA is also the Agyekum. He worked with Omane Boamah at the IT department of the NDC.
So I can say that Agyekum was, you know, so even Rashid Tanko was deputy director for elections. This is how I see the arrangement. Agyekum is like the one for IT, and Rashid is the one for elections.
Okay.
So Omane Boamah is the director for elections and IT.
Yeah.
His deputy, who was doing more of the elections, was Rashid Tanko.
Yeah.
His deputy was doing more of the IT.
Agyekum.
So for example, the system they set up, you know, there was this photo they showed of Mahama and Omane Boamah looking at the dashboard. All those things is Agyekum.
Yeah.
He is the systems analyst working with Omane Boamah. So he's in the time that they've been working together, been very close to him. So it's not surprising at all that he's there as well.
Yeah. It looks like the president's legal counsel is also there. Marietta Apia, Brew Apia is also there. Yeah.
You know, this is when I was talking to some men about this appointment, if you look at the people who have been defense minister in the Fourth Republic, proximity to the president is a very key requirement. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that the president's lawyer and one of the president's key staffers are both sat there.
Yeah.
Kufuor's brother was his defense minister. Essentially, he can go and sleep.
Yeah.
And knowing that the person talking to the soldiers has my back.
Yeah.
All right. When Mills came as well, he had a couple of them. I think he had a general who was his first defense minister. And then I think Mahama had both Benkumbo and
Makoyongo, yes.
Very, very close associates with him. And then Kwadwo comes, and Nitu is somebody he trusts a lot. And I've always said that Omane Boamah of Mahama's people, he's giving him roles that tells you that he trusts him. Yeah. He's giving roles that tells you trust him. So from communication minister to director of elections and IT, and now defense minister. You know, so the president obviously cannot show up at a vetting. Right?
Yeah.
So this is the closest you will get.
Yeah.
This is the closest you will get to him coming, because
his special aide is there, his legal counsel is there.
It's sending a message.
Yeah.
Because not all of the other, because defense is very close to the president, but also the man is also quite close. So, and don't forget, the president was a communication minister in the past.
Yes.
All right, so he's picked for that nominee, that position, and now this. So I'm sure you see a few more people from the presidential office in that vetting. Yeah,
and then the party, we understand Tanko as well is there. Rashid Tanko is also there.
Has he been given a role yet?
No.
Rashid Tanko, computer. Well, where is the name computer coming from?
I'm not sure. He's a doctor. He says he's a doctor.
You know, the thing about Ghanaians is that he must have been good in something. Maybe he's very brainy. Yeah. Because they can call somebody.
And then we started calling him computer, no?
You know, maybe in secondary school he was passing everybody. He was like, Rashid Tanko computer.
Yeah.
You know, that's how Ghanaians was like. Maybe in secondary school he was the mass done.
Yeah.
So Tanko computer.
And it became his name.
He put it on his passport.
Interesting. Well, we're still waiting on the committee to come. Yeah. And then we'll know what the way forward is. As it stands now, the advertised time for the vetting is,
it has gone crash.
It's gone crash, so we don't know if they can even follow with what they've communicated with the other nominees and the times they've given them to appear before the committee, and whether same will be followed, whether they will move that of the defense minister to another time, or they will just decide to do that of the defense minister and push the others.
I don't expect the vetting of the PSI minister to be very long. Because it's even a surprising nomination.
Yes, anything that we don't know what his mandate will be.
So when we asked, they said to us that, the NPP had special initiatives, which included free, one district, one factory, and those things.
Yes.
So what we are told is that the NDC also have their special initiatives, which the president will need somebody to coordinate. What we are not sure is, will that include things like 24-hour economy, which are the PSIs? We are not really sure.
Yeah.
So I think that vetting will be more, please, you know what you are going to do there? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Where are they going to use Habakum's notes?
Yeah.
I don't know. So for example,
I doubt, because I don't know if this president's PSIs will be the same as
for example,
that of
we have Coastal Development Agency, Middle Belt. Would the NDC have
those
that?
authorities, would they still exist?
I don't know. So this guy's vetting, Agyekum, will be interesting. The other one is the housing.
Yeah.
So I think today, of the 3 substantive, only one is an MP. And if I look at the way, of course, Pablo is quite popular. I don't think Omane, Boamah and Adjei will have an easy ride necessarily, because they may not have a lot of cronies, using that word in that sense.
Yeah.
It's like when you come as a former leader of parliament, we know him, he's our friend, but Omane Boamah is really outside parliament. So I don't know how they will manage that thing, which may be a better deal for all of us, because sometimes the familiarity is too much. It's like, deputy minority that says, Haruna Idris, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased.
Well pleased.
What is that?
Mama fat.
Charlie, Haruna Idris, my son. Like, hey, bet the man for us. Oh my God.
She's pleased in the man.
No, it's not good.
The man's competence is...
No. Charlie, so I think this one, they will vet him well. Because Omane Boamah is not in parliament. Neither is Kenneth, Gilbert, Adjei.
Yeah.
So a lot of us will want to see who they are, because I have never really followed Adjei Kenneth that much. So like to see what he brings to the table as a key Ashanti in this government. If you look at the Ashanti nominations, I think there are 2. But Muntaka is not ethnically Ashanti. No. So you can say this is the first proper Ashanti minister to be vetted, apart from the regional minister. So I think a lot of the Ashanti MPs will come on board to see what he brings to the party and what he's been doing on the ground.
And heading to works and housing,
which Asenso Boateng handed over. So we'll see. The works and housing ministry has been maintained in Ashanti.
We have issues. Saglemi.
Yeah. What does it do with Saglemi? I think Kwadwo will come for this vetting.
Yeah, I suspect he will.
To question. I think Collins Dauda too will come.
Yes.
Because Collins Dauda has been...
he has a legal battle as well regarding...
And I'm very sure they will ask him whether he thinks the legal issue should continue and whether where the process has gotten to in NPP, they will continue it or whether they will restart it. It's been a very contentious issue, this matter of the Saglemi housing project. And whether government should be building houses for people at all. And then agents like State Housing Corporation, what they would do, I think that's going to come up quite strongly as well, and that kind of thing.
All right, we'll take a break here. We'll return when we get indication that the appointment committee is resuming, and then of course we'll know whether they will continue, continue because we are in the vetting season, but whether they will begin the sessions for today. 5 of them: Dr. Edward Omane Boamah for the Defense Ministry, Emmanuel Agyekum, Minister of State in charge of Special Initiatives, Adjei Kenneth, Gilbert, Minister Designate, Ministry of Works, Housing, Water Resources, and then you do 2 regional minister nominees: Linda Obenenwa Akwele Ocloo for Greater Accra, Charity Gardner for Ahafo region. My name is Nanatufo Boateng. Stay with us here on Channel 1 TV, and if you're listening to us on radio, your dial is 97.3 City FM We'll soon be back.
One upgrade is nice, but a double upgrade is amazing. And that's how we do it. Upgrade today to get even more with Step Up. If you're on GoTV Max and upgrade to GoTV Super, you'll get way more with GoTV Super Plus.
It's so cool!
Get big value. Get big entertainment.
Very good.
Perfect! Upgrade and get even more with GoTV. GoTV. Love it.
Tell me, is this thing on now? I've been working long like a marathon now. Tying up words, making them a bomb now. Tell me, who's your money alone now? I got a message, we didn't put it in a song now. I'll see you later, all the haters got it wrong now. We're touching the lightning, we're coming alive, yeah. We're feeling inside, yeah. We got the power.
Tank 300, where power meets elegance. Call us on 0501 772222 or 0501 773333.